true or false for all the questions, and there are a lot. Question 1. These are ways in which disease causing agents can be acquired from the environment: food, water, air, objects, insects. So we can put true or false on the options. Let's start with the first option. Is it true or false? So the first option is true, and then the second one. Let's be free to contribute. Also true. And then we have got C. C is also true. And then D. Anyone? What does the Clostridia do? Thank you so much. That's true. And then we have got E. Can insect bites be a way in which disease can be caused? So all the options here are true. Thank you. And then question number 2. Endogenously acquired disease are those that are caused by, remember the word is endogenous. A. Agents present on or in the body. B. Members of normal flora. C. Contaminated water. D. Inhalation of contaminated air. E. Long hospitalization. We can start with A. Is that an endogenous way of acquiring disease? Agents that are present in or on the body. So say yes, isn't it? Because it's endogenous. If we have got agents already in our body, they can cause infection. They're already in the body. That's endogenous. And then B, members of normal flora. True or false? Is true also, right? Because it's part of our bodies also. And then C, contaminated water. Why false? Thank you so much. Water is not necessarily not part of us, right? We are getting it from the environment. Even when we have got water in us, the water that is causing infection is what we are getting from the outside. So that's exogenous. And then D, inhalation of contaminated air. Is that endogenous? False. Thank you so much. We know hair is also not part of us. It's from the environment. And then long hospitalization. Is that an indigenously acquired disease method or not? Anyone? Would you love to explain why you think so? Thank you. So you have been in a hospital for long and then you end up getting an infection. That is still from the environment. It's not endogenous. Number three, human encounter with microbes is quite varied. Some of the reasons for this include each microbe has got its quirks. Each human being displays an idiosyncratic pattern of responses. Factors such as age, nutrition, status may also contribute. The length of stay in one geographic region, predisposition to different to disease by descent. We can start with A, human encounter with microbe. Is it that each microbe has got its quirks? That's why human encounter with microbe is varied. Okay, someone to help. What's quirk? This one is Chisungu. Anyone to help? Okay, that word is just meaning a trait that is unique to an organism. So that statement is saying each microbe has got its unique or traits that are different from others that to be able to make it to be able to cause maybe whatsoever infection or something like that. So human encounter with microbe is quite varied because each microbe has got its own unique and a different way from the other organisms in which it does, whether it's the attack or something. Okay. Thank you. So our doc has said it's false. Anyone else that has got either the same answer or a different one? Anyone? Okay, so we go with false there. Option B, each human being displays an idiosyncratic pattern of responses. True or false? Anyone to say something? Is this not having an idea or people not wanting to speak? Which one? But I know ideas are there. Those same ideas that we might be thinking of, they are the ones that will be able to help. All right, so let's talk about this one. Each human being displays an idiosyncratic pattern of response. This is also some bit of English, the idiosyncratic there. Idiosyncratic is just representing a way of thought for each individual, or maybe the way each individual be able to react to some things in the environment. For me, for this one, I'll go with first because say you have got this. We can give an example of any bacteria or pathogen. When it comes to attack our body, the biggest determinant of what is going to happen, of course, our bodies are also going to be able to respond. The biggest determinant is what is coming to attack, and then the state. So, when it comes to me as a person that is having that infection or getting that bacteria or pathogen, the determinant would be things that will weaken my immune system. Those are the things that will determine how I'm going to respond to the infection. Things like age, am I well nourished? So these things will determine how I respond to infection, not necessarily the way I think about the infection or something like that. So that's why for B, I would still go with the force. Each human being displays an idiosyncratic pattern of response. We have got D, the length of stay in one geographic region. Does that determine the why different individuals respond differently to different microbes? The length of stay in a specific region. Any idea on that one? Imagine you've been, let's say, in an environment for long. Does that offer your immunity from getting infection simply because you've been long in that environment? What do we think? Pardon? Okay, so I'll still say force also there. You can be in an environment for long, but when a microbe comes, doesn't matter how long you've been in that environment, it can still attack you and you still get to fall sick or even die. But we know that us staying, being exposed to some things offers us some form of immunity to some infections. Let's say, for example, a child that is in the village, born in the village, and someone that is born in town. The one in the village, for them, they're used to playing with dirt and they are more exposed to these microbes. So if you take a child that is from town in the same environment, they will not be able to survive that. But then but then the length of stay in one geographical area itself is what I'm just disqualifying as being the reason as to why we are going to be able to respond variedly to microbes. So we're going to have some who are people that are in a specific environment for long, and at the same time maybe they just not this kind of bacteria or something, but when there's an outbreak, it doesn't matter how long you've been in that environment, you still end up getting sick. Then a predisposition to diseases by descent, where your origin, where you come from. Now, where you come from really doesn't determine how you are going to respond to infection. Of course, in some races or environments, say when you're comparing the whites and the blacks, you might be much stronger with one thing than the other one, but it's still generally just where you come from does not determine how you respond to infection, because that is about the genes. Some genes might be stronger with some kind of infection, others are weaker, but not necessarily where you come from. Question number 4. In case someone has got something to say, please be free. Most of the tissues we normally think of as being inside of the body is topologically connected with the outside. For instance, so which one of these guys here is connected to the outside world? Almost all the organs contained within the thoracic. Let's start with that one. Is that true? Is that part topologically connected to the outside of the body? So organs that we are going to say they are part of the outside of the body, those are organs that continue. Let's say, for example, start from the mouth. You are going to start from the mouth, you are going to go inside the body, you are going like that, and you are also going to have, let's say we go first posteriorly, you are going in the trachea. Direct from the outside world, you are going all the way to the lungs until you reach the smallest, which are the alveolar, and then you come back. So basically, things that are in the environment can still reach to the very end here because it's a direct path. Same with the GIT, where you have got your esophagus there, and all the organs that will be connected. Are going to have the stomach, and then you have got these other organs, and then you're also having the liver coming to open here. It is still open, you can see there's still a connection here, and then you are going to the liver, going to the bile duct. So the GIT is also considered part of the outside world because it has got a full connection with the environment. An organism can actually enter from there, it can even come out from the other side. So we can now pick some options here. A, almost all of the organs contained within the thoracic. What do we think about this one? True or false? The thoracic region. So in the thoracic, we have got the heart, so that's false, right? Because those guys are not part of these respiratory GIT systems that are considered. So that's false. And then B, the surface of the lumen of the intestine. What do you think about that one? This one is true. The alveoli of the lung. This is also going to be true. Thank you. The bowel canaliculi. So remember, bowel canaliculi, where bowel is produced, that is basically going to the liver, which is part of the GIT connected there. So expecting that also to be true because organisms can actually flow direct, let's say from the mouth going like that. The tubules of the kidney. Now you know you have got the penis or the urethra going all the way to the bladder, and then it continues like that going to the kidney. You can see there's a continuation from the outside world going like that. So that is also going to be a true one there. Number five, the term entry in microbiology can be used in more sense than one. These include, what does entry mean? Number A, microbial crawling via wounds and insect bites. Is that true? Can we say that is entry? When a microbe enters through a wound or the bite of an insect, let's say, for example, mosquito bites, and then the plasmodium and anyway, I want to use the same word. Is that true? So you have got your plasmodium, you have got first your mosquito. Here is a guy, come a mosquito, and then it bites my skin. And you know, when it bites my skin, it is as well going to release the plasmodium. And then this plasmodium now is able to go into the body. Do we describe that as entry? That's true. That's true. And then B, ingress of microorganisms into body cavity that are continuous with the outside. How about that? Ingress is basically penetrating or entering. So penetrating of microorganism into body cavities that are continuous with the outside. Do we also call that as entry? For example, you have got a microorganism in the GIT, and then it gets to penetrate into body cavities. You know, I've got different cavities, the peritoneum, the pericardium, through this same part of the body that is continuous with the outside world. Do we call that as entry? That's also true. And then C, burrowing of worms such as tapeworm. Here maybe it's the English that can make us not to answer. So burrowing is digging, digging, like you know the worms dig and then end up going into the soil. So digging of the worms such as a tapeworm, is that part of entry? Like the worms entering into the soil, digging so that they enter the soil. That's a burrow. Yes, the soil. So here is your worm. It digs into the soil and goes and hides there or stays there. That's a burrowing. As far as my research has gone specifically for soil. So what would we say? Yes. But remember here, this is in microbiology. When we are referring to entry, we are talking about the organism being able to penetrate into our tissues, right? So do we expect this option to be true or not? So that this one is false. And then D, penetration of microorganism into deeper tissue after crossing the epithelium. Is that true? That's true. And then accidental swallowing of microorganism. Is that true? Now remember when you have swallowed a microorganism, remember this is swallowing, that's the mouth, right? You can go to the toilet and then remove it. So it doesn't, so microbiologically speaking, it has not entered your body. It can pass through your mouth and come through the other side. That is, it has not still entered your body, because remember I said that the GIT is part of the outside. So we are going to say its entry when it went into the mouth, we swallowed it, and then it ended up penetrating tissue, breaking through the GIT, going into the internal part. So that is why this is also not true. Is that fine? So the accidental swallowing, let's say for example, you accidentally, I remember, anyway, you accidentally swallow a mosquito, and then you go to the toilet, you excrete it. So swallowing itself is not entry, not until what you have swallowed penetrates your GIT to go into your internal organs or your internal cavities. So swallowing itself is not entry. Yes, please. Yeah, that's true. This one is saying ingress of microorganisms into body cavities that are continuous with the outside. I get what you're saying. But look at this word. This is the main word here. If you look at the meaning of ingress, to ingress is to penetrate. So there is already a penetration. You have entered your body cavity. Let's say, for example, this was your GIT. This thing has entered here, and then it will end up penetrating. Besides it just passing through the GIT and coming out from the other side. But for this swallowing, we don't know the actual result. But normally the things that we swallow, they will not be able to penetrate through the walls. Unless if they are living, and they can do that, because most of them will be excreted or they'll be removed from the body. I hope that makes some bit sense. Yes, please. Yes. All right, all right. Are we good doctors on this one? All right. Number six, spread of microorganisms is generally influenced by what is going to influence the spread of a microorganism. Number A, the body's fluid dynamics. Does that influence the spread of a microorganism in the body? Fluid dynamics. Let's say, for example, blood itself. Does blood influence the spread of a microorganism, or the lymphatic system, because those are the major fluids in the body? Do they influence the spread of? That's true, right? So that's true. And then B, anatomical considerations. Does the anatomical considerations influence the spread of microorganisms? I want someone that would want to say something about this one. How does the anatomical considerations help in the spread of microorganisms? Okay, let's say for example you have got here you have got a blood vessel, here you have got a bone. So you're looking at the anatomy. Microorganisms don't pass everywhere and anyhow. They are penetrating where they can. So the anatomic consideration is true also. Then C, knowledge of the human anatomy. Is that going to influence the entry of microorganism or the spread? I think we are sorted. What do you think? Is that true? So this one will be false. Plasmodium doesn't need to know the anatomy of our body for it to move. And then D, the level of blood in the body. Is that true? Imagine someone that has got less blood and someone that has got more blood. Does that greatly influence the spread or the difference in how they are going to be able to, how the microorganism will be able to spread? And this word is nice here. Remember, it's greatly. So whether you are anemic or you are polycythemic, the organism can still spread in the body. Whether you have got more blood or less blood, it can still spread. Of course, there can be a little difference with someone that has got more fluid than someone that has got less. But this is greatly. So there's no great difference. Someone that has got the level of blood being high or being low. So put first there. And then we'll go to E, available medication. The spread of microorganism. Is it greatly influenced by available medication? Why do we think so? Okay. Though I'm looking at this option is available medication. Maybe so that's a problem. That's what I'm also looking at. 'Cause this option is just saying available medication. Where is it available? Is it in the pocket, in the body, in the stores? Do we? Yeah, that's true. Because when you have got a drug, some of them, especially for those for worms, they will make the worm, let's say, to be immortal. Some of them preventing them from replicating. So when they're not replicating, their spread will be reduced. But then the option seems to have limited. It's so limited. So what to pick will be more of completing it for the examiner. Available medication will complete for them in the body, and for them they didn't put that. So we can say it is false here. When you have got medication, of course, in the body, it is going to affect the microorganism. But even so, not every medication in the body will affect the spread of the microorganism. It is a specific medication that is targeted for that microorganism that will affect the spread of that microorganism. Say you have got Plasmodium parasite and then you have given a drug for hookworms, it's present in the body. So it will have no effect. The Plasmodium will still spread. Number seven, there are as many kinds of microbial damage as there are infectious diseases. The type and intensity of the damage depends on the tissue and organ affected. Therefore, it is difficult to make generalization. Damage in infectious processes may be loosely categorized as due to. How can you categorize damage? Tissue damage due to infectious processes. Tissue damage, cell death, pharmacological alteration of metabolism, vehement host response, loss of aggressiveness. Let's start with A. Tissue damage. Is that a way in which we can be able to categorize damage due to infectious processes as tissue damage? So this is true. Sometimes infections can get to just destroy our tissue. How about cell death? What do you think about cell death? Thank you. You know, some microorganisms basically will lead to apoptosis when they. So that's true. And then pharmacological alteration of metabolism. How about that one? Any explanation? Thank you so much. So the pharmacology of the body as well is going to be affected. Pharmacological alterations. If you have got infection, some of them they will lead to when you take a drug, the drug is pushed out, it can't work because of an infection. And then D, vehement host response. You are sick, instead of the disease, the microorganism being the one being harmful, your body starts now, trying to respond. And this is something that is really serious. What hurts us the most is not what people have done to us, but how we respond to what people have done. You end up hating yourself even greater than you can imagine because of what someone has done. So that is what the vehement host response is. You have got an infection, but then your body exaggerates the response and that ends up damaging you. So this is true. And then E, loss of aggressiveness. Anyone that can say something about this? True or false? Now remember, this is we are talking about damage in infectious processes, and this is saying loss of aggressiveness. It's more like the direct opposite, because when you have got an infectious process, there's going to be aggressiveness, not the loss of aggressiveness. So that one is false. Number 8, the objective of living organism, including microbes. A is to grow and reproduce. True or false? Anyone? To grow and reproduce. Remember the is it the seven characteristics of living things? Anyone? So this is true. When think of a virus, when the HIV virus enters the body, the first thing that is doing is it wants to be able to divide, and it's dividing so that it can be able to grow. Or first is to start growing and then dividing, but virus not so much on that one. Let's say we are talking about bacteria, or let's say worms. A worm enters the body, divides. They are now 10. They will start to grow. Basically, that they also reproduce again. Besides microbes, that's also the basic objective of living organisms. Because whatever that we do is just alternating between growth and reproduction. You grow, you reproduce, you grow, you reproduce. And then B, to prosper. What do you think? So we are not here to prosper, eh? Even the microbe, if it enters the body, it's not there to prosper. Whatever it does, it's there to just go and reproduce. How about to reproduce and perpetuate generation? Anyone? Now, of course, reproduction is true, but perpetuation of the generations is not true. Perpetuation is to continue in generations. So when we reproduce, we are not here to live forever. We'll pass away or pass on. So we'll have to go back home and leave the younger ones. And then D, it is to kill their host. Is that true or false? This is false. That can be, of course, one agenda of them. Not, it's not even the agenda of microbes. Their aim is just to grow and reproduce, but they don't know that while they are doing that, they're actually destroying another person. Because for you to grow, you need food. So you end up depriving the owner of the body from the food, and so they end up dying. And then E, it is to persist in the environment so as to infect the next host. True or false? Pardon? Okay. To persist in the environment so as to infect the next host. So infecting the next host is, of course, is true. That's when you are looking at a microbe. But we want an objective that is both true for the microbe and for living organisms. Like, for example, me as a human being. So if we put other living organisms, do you think that's going to be true? So it's going to be false. Number nine, the most excessive microbe is the one that can rapidly and efficiently become two microbes. True or false? The what is the most successive microbe? So number A is true. So as a microbe, if you can rapidly and efficiently divide, basically, remember as we said on top, the basic thing is division or growth and reproduction. How about B? The one that does not kill the host in order to ensure its own survival. Is that the most successful microbe? Anyone? So that's also false. The success of a microbe is not about how much it can kill, how evil it is, how many hosts it encounters, but is it able to divide? So meaning that these others being able to encounter hosts, being more virulent, and being able to cross species on people. How do microorganisms persist in the body? A. They must be able to resist host mechanisms that could kill or dislodge them. True or false? That's true. And then B. They should be able to compete successfully with other microbial species. True or false? True, right? Like the that's why I've got normal flora. The only way a guy that comes from somewhere else will be able to survive is if normal flora loses. And then C, they should confine themselves only to selected sites in the body. True or false? Any explanation there? Any explanation? Now remember, we are saying microorganisms persist in the body. How do they persist? They should confine themselves only only to selected sites in the body. So microorganisms can actually persist. They can still stand the test of time. They can still be in the body, whether they are on one site or not. They can be in different regions of the body, but they'll still persist. They'll still remain in the body. And then D, they should be exchanging genes. Yes, that's true. That's true. Anyone that has got something to say on that one? Please go on. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I was also thinking the same line. How do microorganisms persist? How are they going to remain in the body? They should confine themselves only to selected sites in the body. So we are going to find one microorganism is in one part of the body. Of course, that's a part that has got an environment that is more suitable for it. But that's not a limitation that it can survive in other regions for it to persist. It can as well be in other regions, but that specific site is the best in which it can survive. So I feel just this word only makes it to appear as though in other regions where the environment might not be too good. Remember, these microorganisms have got also machinery that enables them to be able to withstand some conditions and being able to take over the environment, even some environments that are seemingly supposed to be bad for them, but they end up surviving in those environments because of the machinery that they have. But should they be given an opportunity to choose between A and B, they could have chosen the other environment because in that environment it's way better. So I feel the word only there makes things worse. I don't know if that's if will be good docs. Thank you so much. That's another good contribution there. Let's think of sepsis, where you have got the bacteria throughout the body, and we can compare that, let's say, with the strep pyogenes, where you are having a carbuncle or a furancle specifically at a location. Not necessarily that the bacteria is there; it might be in another. So this is an interesting thing that he has brought about, something that is confined to a specific region, like as he said, can easily be brought down so it will not be able to persist for that long. But for let's say sepsis, where you have got generalized infection, or bacteremia, where the bacteria is everywhere in the body, so it will be able to persist more. Thank you so much for that. I But it's still okay also with what our other doctors were saying in that context, except for here we have that word only. I don't know if that's okay. We go to the next option. All right, thank you. And then option D is saying they should be exchanging genes with new generation, new organisms. Is that true? Would you mind explaining? Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone else with another option? Or I mean, another suggestion? Okay. So it's true when you have got one organism and another organism. Let's say this organism is resistant, let's say, to penicillins. So this other organism, which is not resistant, you can give it that resistance. And this resistance is mostly to the drugs that are aimed at attacking these organisms. So they'll be able to persist. And for this option, they should be exchanging genes with new organisms. So specifically, there isn't it that there are specific genes that are supposed to be exchanged, not just any other gene, like resistant genes that will make the organism resistant to some to some, let's say, drug, but not necessarily just exchanging any gene, because this one is just saying they should be exchanging genes. So for the fact that there is an exchange of gene where you don't care what kind of gene, does that render the other virus protection? So I'm thinking in those lines. What do you think, docs? Thank you so much. So we'll just say this option, it would have been correct, but maybe incomplete. So, and then option E, the host must be ill periodically so that his immunity is not too strong to disturb the microbes. Is that how the microbes will be able to, microorganisms will be able to persist? Any thought? So, so there is one force there. Anyone that thinks it's true, the host must be ill periodically. Let's think of just simple malaria, where you have got those, what do you call them? Hype, hype what? With those guys which hide in the liver. Anyone to finish it for? The hypnozoids. Yes. So these guys have remained in the liver. Someone is fine, and they'll be responsible for the recurrent appearance of the disease. So the microorganism will be able to persist in the body, but then you are not having periodic illness. So this makes this option to be not correct. In as much as it can be true for some organisms, it's not true for all. It's not that the host must be ill periodically. Number 11, the following microorganisms are true members of human normal microbial flora: alpha hemolytic streptococci, lactobacillus, Legionella, syphilis, cholera. Let's start with A, alpha hemolytic strep. Alpha hemolytic strep, what's the other name? Strep what? Or maybe I shouldn't have asked that one. Strep pyogenes. So, do we think this guy is a true member of the normal flora or not? Actually, for the alpha, the strep pyogenes is a better guy. The alpha, you have got which ones? The strep pneumoniae and the viridans. So are those guys part of the normal flora? True normal flora of the human. Strep pyogenes, sorry, strep pneumoniae and the viridans group. So that's false. Those are more of the infectious part. Of course, they are part of normal flora. Strep is part of normal flora of the GIT, but not really true because any slight mistake with it, it's a sickness. But guys like, now let me not start mentioning. How about lactobacillus? What do we think there? So lactobacillus is true. It is a normal flora of the GIT. Is it the stomach? So that guy is true. And then Legionella. Okay, these others are going to be causing infection. They're not true. So you have got lactobacillus as the main guy. Passive immunity, PI, refers to. So as we answer this question, let me just mention something. When you're talking about immunity, we know we can classify immunity into two basic ones. So here is immunity. You can have innate immunity or adaptive. We know the adaptive is also known as acquired. You're not born with it. Now, this immunity that you acquire, you can acquire it by two ways, either by artificial means or by natural means. When you say natural, it means that your body is being involved. It is what God created. Artificial, it's made by women. And then for each one of these artificial, you can have active and passive. Same with natural, you can have active and passive. Now, active just means that your body is being involved in producing. Passive means something has already been made. So let's start with natural. Natural is something that is created by God. And then active, okay? Created by God, it's happening by itself. And then your body active, your body is being involved. For example, you get sick. After you get sick, later on you end up getting your body starts producing antibodies against that whatsoever microorganism that made you sick. So that is an example of natural active immunity. So infection. But then passive means naturally your body is being involved in producing these things to be able to fight. But it's passive. It's not you who is producing it. So this is an example of you getting antibodies or a baby getting antibodies from the mother. Natural is because the mother is producing antibodies by self. It's passive because you are just getting it. To be passive means just to get. You're not being involved in production. Artificial means it's made somewhere. If it is artificial active, this is where you have got, let's say for example, you get a dead virus. Okay? That's already it is artificial because it's not part of your body. You get a dead something, you put it in the body. But the body starts producing antibodies against because your body is being involved in producing. That is active. So this is an example of immunization. It is artificial because you are introducing something in the body. And then if it is passive, remember it is introducing something in the body. Again, it's passive. Your body will not be involved in producing. antibodies. This is an example of getting already formed antibodies, pre-formed antibodies. You just get antibodies, you put in the body, and then the body starts now using those antibodies. So we can see we have got passive here, we also have passive here. So passive immunity refers to a transfer of preformed antibodies to non-immune individuals. Is that true? The transfer, right? That's passive. And then B, usually made possibly by an infection from a sick individual. Is that true? When you get sick, is that passive? That's false, that's active. And then C, common in Hep C simplex virus infection. Okay, already when you have got an infection, your body is going to be involved, isn't it? So there's nothing passive there. And then D, maternal antibody transfer via placenta qualifies as a passive immunity. Is that true? That's true. And then E, community vaccination are also a form of passive immunity. Is that true? Vaccination is active, so that's false. Are the following statements true or false about microorganisms? A, many microorganisms have developed many theoretically possible devices that enable them to overcome host defenses. True or false? This is true, right? Though sometimes we don't even know why some organisms are more resistant. That's because, so theoretically people will give, okay, I think there is a development of some things. That's why these are more resistant. For some, we've managed to be able to tell what makes them to be more resistant. B, microorganisms evolve rapidly compared with their vertebrate host species, generally being one step ahead of human efforts. True or false? This is also true. These evolve rapidly. Like, for example, the way the mpox guy started, just from nowhere, it has started, and you've seen how bad mpox is. Within few days, someone having bad sores all over the face. See, microorganisms are quick to take advantage of changes in the host way of life. True or false? Imagine you eat well or you bath every day. Simply stop bathing, you stop eating well. Does that give an advantage to microorganisms? So there is false. Are we all good with that? Or there's someone with another option? So I would go with true here. There microorganisms love a change in a person's way of life because our way of life is actually a disposition factor that makes us susceptible or being able to gain infections. You can have two people living in the same environment, but then they have got two different ways of life. So microorganisms would take note of the weak one and then be able to do something with them. And then D, respiratory viruses have indeed taken advantage of comparatively recent increase in human density. True or false? Anyone? This is also true. Remember, these are respiratory viruses. They take pleasure in where there are a lot of people coughing, doing those things, and they'll be able to spread well. Similarly, the venereal route of infection has become more and more promising from a microorganism's point of view. True or false? The venereal route is involving sexual activities, those things. And in this generation, sex is no longer natural the way it's supposed to be. Different ways and different things like that. So that gives it more privilege for microorganisms to be able to infect. There are some microorganisms which are believed to be infecting the the genital tract. But right now they infect also the mouth. And you wonder why they are infecting the mouth. Because of this same venereal route. Someone just changes the mode of sexual intercourse. So that's also going to be a true guy. Hope we are good. Decide whether the following statements about complement are true or false. It's an essential component of microorganism. Is that true or false? Complement. Anyone? So truly the so true the complement system is an important component. But the thing is that it's not an important component of the microorganism. Complement system belongs to us, helping to fight against microorganisms. So that's why this option is false. And B is an enzymatic system of serum proteins. Is that true? So this is true. Thank you so much. Now I've got those complement proteins C1, C2, C3, C9. Is made up of antigen antibody reactions. True or false? This is true. If an antigen binds to an antibody, that can activate the complement system, and then you have got the cascade of forming the system that will be able to destroy the microorganism. D is involved in immune lysis of blood cells. True or false? Now, the complement is necessarily not involved in destroying us. It's going to be involved in destroying the microorganism, not the red blood cells. But of course, each row is going to be in phagocytosis, opsonizing. To opsonize is to make a microorganism sweet. So the microorganism is going to be surrounded so that the cells that are supposed to attack this can find it way easier to be able to attack it. And chemotaxis. For example, you have got complement proteins. Is it C5? Is that C5b? If not C5a, to be involved in attracting the inflammatory cells and other immune cells to where you have got a microorganism so that it can be attacked. Number 15, decide whether the following statements about bacterial cell wall are true. Just something where direct when you're talking about the cell of a bacteria, it's very important because you can use it to differentiate bacteria based on the gram stain. You have got the gram positive guys and the gram negative guys. The big difference between these, the gram positive guys have got a thick peptidoglycan. Here, these guys have got a thin peptidoglycan. They have got a thin peptidoglycan, but they have got a double plasma membrane. So we're going to have a plasma membrane on top. We are going to have another plasma membrane here. And then you have got peptidoglycan, which is thick. These guys have got only one membrane, plasma membrane, and then you have got the peptidoglycan. Another thing that we need to know about these guys is that for the gram positive, they have got teichoic acid. The gram negative, they have got lipopolysaccharide. These are some important distinguishing features. So because of this, remember this guy is thin. It has got a thin peptidoglycan, which will make up just like 5 to 10% of the dry weight of the organism. So the cell wall will make up this amount. For these guys, they've got a very thick cell which will make up over 50% of the dry weight of the organism because of the thick peptidoglycan. So A, decide which statement is true about the bacterial cell wall. Basically, peptidoglycan containing component are unique to microorganisms. Is that true? Anyone? Anyone to help? Peptidoglycan containing components are unique to microorganism. Whatever microorganism they are referring to here. Now, peptidoglycan is found in the cell wall, depending on the microorganism. For example, the cell wall of plants has got cellulose. That of fungi has got glycan. That of insect has got chitin. That of bacteria has got peptidoglycan. So the cell wall is basically peptidoglycan containing component are unique to microorganisms. It's unique to the bacteria, not to all microorganisms. So that's not true. Constitutes up to The cell constitutes up to 50% of dry weight of the bacteria cell. That guy also, okay, before I comment about it, what do you think? Since I mentioned them already, is B true or false? Anyone? So that's true. Sometimes as addition of polysaccharide and teichoic acid, and we just mentioned that. So that's true. Bacteria cell wall is mostly coccus, like this. So this is bacillus, coccus is like that. And it just turns out it's true. Bacterial cell is mostly coccus. Gram negative bacterial cell is mostly lipopolysaccharide. Anyone on this one, is this true or false? So the only thing that is disqualifying this is this word. Gram-negative bacteria cell wall has got lipopolysaccharide. Not that the cell wall is mostly lipopolysaccharide. It has got lipopolysaccharide, still made up of the same peptidoglycan. That's a most with lipopolysaccharide. That's why that one is false. And then we are on virus questions here. Capsid is an internal organ in microbes, an intermediate organ. When you look at, let's say, a virus, you have got an envelope, you are going to have a caspid, and then you have got the nuclear materials inside. An internal organ in microbes. An outer, so this is false. An outer organ of microbes. How about that one? Why is the first one false? Okay, thank you. And then C, a made organ of microbes. So that will still be the same thing, only found in viruses. Yes, please. Ye- Yes, this guy is only for viruses, a capsid. So this will be true. And then E, protein coat enclosing the nucleic acid core of a virus. Is that true? You can see this is the nucleic acid and then this is a capsid. So that's also true. Number 17, hemolysis refers to destruction of cells. Is that true? So the word is hemo. So that's false. Destruction of tissue, false. Organ, false. Destruction of red blood cells by bacterial toxin. That's true, isn't it? Destruction of red blood cells by the action of complement. So it doesn't matter what destroys the red blood cells. As long as it's destruction of red blood cells, that is hemolysis. Yes, please. Okay, I see. So, so on question 14, decide whether the following statement is true. This one is involved in immune destruction of blood cells. And then here we are saying destruction of red blood cells by the action of complement. So what I was thinking of them is the complement itself is necessarily not coming to Let's say the way we have in systemic lupus erythematosus, where you have got a problem with something, there's something wrong with the cell, and then your immune cells come and start attacking your own cells. So for the complement system, it is being activated because there is an antigen antibody reaction and of course some other things. Let's say there is an organism inside the red blood cell, like a parasite. That parasite is going to ask is going to be information enough, or it has got antigens that to be able to send information to immune cells to come and attack it, isn't it, like the macrophages and the other cells. So specifically the complement system, like immune destruction of the red blood cells, my thought was it is necessarily not involved in responding to the destroying just the red blood cells per se. By this for this question, we are talking referring to hemolysis. When are you going to refer to something as hemolysis? It is hemolysis is the destruction of red blood cells. But then what is destroying the red blood cells? It doesn't matter what is destroyed the red blood cells for whatever reason. It can be bacterial toxin, it can be the immune system. I don't know if my analysis is even making any sense. Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So on question 14, D, so would go for what? For true there? Isn't it, Doc? Is that your suggestion? Oh, okay. Oh, I see. So I'm not just too sure on the destruction of the red blood cell when it comes to complement. Specifically, just like you have said, when there is an organism that has come and the complement system has been sensitized, you have got a microorganism. What the complement system is coming to do is that is coming to make holes in this cell so that water can be able to enter and then to be able to break, but just not sure about the blood. Remember this specifically, this one is also talking about blood cells, not just the red blood cells, meaning you're also talking about the white blood cells, you are talking about the red blood cells, you're talking about the platelets, even the white blood cells themselves, which are acting as the body's defense. will be destroyed by the complement system. That's the meaning of this option. Remember, what I'm thinking still is the white blood cells, the complement system are still working together. But of course, there are conditions where the white blood cells themselves are also being destroyed, like in the same systemic lupus erythematosus. The red blood cells, the white blood cells are being destroyed by our own immune system. And of course, we know that the white blood cells are also part of the immune system. Basically, the immune system is destroying the immune system, destroying itself. Are we good, Doc? So I just feel this option was too specific, is involved in the breakdown of blood cells. Other than blood cells, it's going to be involved in the destruction of infected cells. Because we know the blood cells, specifically the red blood cells, they are going to be destroyed, of course, in the spleen. If we want to be the option, I just feel it is more specific, involved in the lysis of blood cells instead of infected cells. But I still support your view on that one. It's true the component can destroy any cell. The following statements referring to endotoxin are true. Now, I know endotoxins are produced by gram negative bacteria. A, it's a toxic component associated with pyogenic bacteria. Is that true? Anyone? Anyone with any thought on question 18? A, endotoxin, toxic component associated with pyogenic bacteria. Pyogenic bacteria is examples is strep and staph. Are those gram negative? Those bacteria that can form pus. Those are gram positive. So do we expect this option to be true? So this is going to be false. And then it is a component of the cell wall of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Is that true? TB is also M. tuberculosis is also a gram positive bacteria, which is bacillus. So this is false. Sometimes just considered not with a gram stain, but using the other stain. So they will say it's not stained by gram stain. And then C generally refers to lipopolysaccharide of gram negative bacteria is generally it generally refers to lipopolysaccharide of gram negative bacteria. Is that true? So endotoxin is different from lipopolysaccharide. So that's not true there. The toxic component of endotoxin lipid A. So endotoxin has got three parts. It has got the O antigen, you have got the middle portion, you have got the lipid A. So the lipid A is the toxic component. That's true. Its effects manifest in skin rash. So endotoxin Anyone with a thought? Any idea? Okay, so this is not true. So the effects of endotoxin is going to be involved in things like inflammation, septic shock, destruction of tissue. 19. Latency is true or false in relation to the following statement. State of chronic pain in infected individuals. Is that true about latency? This is false. Stage of persistent infection with the pathogen causing no apparent disease. Is that true? It's true. C. State where pathogen still remains capable of activation and disease production. Is that true? Now, B is actually not if is going to be false. The latency is it a stage? Because if we say stage, it means that all persistent infections are going to reach a point where they're going to latency. It's actually a state, so C becomes better. It's a state when a pathogen still remains capable of activation later on to produce disease, but then it is inactive at the current moment. Then it is only associated with all viral. It's only associated with all viral infections. Okay, the word only again, every time we are talking about only, it is infective though its effect is infective dose as well as host immune state related, or is infective dose and immune state related. Is that true? Infective dose as well as the host immune state related. Okay, really not. Latency is not going to be related to the infective dose and the host immune state. Of course, if they you can have someone that has got a strong immune system. Like for example, malaria, the one that produces hypnozoites. Immune system can be fine, but then the hypnozoite will still hide in the liver. We can do 20 as the last one for now. Following statements relate to vaccine. Okay. Is there anyone that wants to differentiate for us latency and recrudescence? Sure. Thank you so much. And then we also have recrudescence is also similar to latence. Let's say you are treating someone and after treating them, they didn't heal well. So what happened was the infection more like went into a bit of hiding, and then it can still come back. So it's the reemergence of a disease after recovery or remission. Latency is a state where you have got the pathogen being dormant and it remain dormant within the host and is not causing any symptoms. I don't know if that answers the question, Doc. Right. I feel it can't cause infection, not until it is reactivated. More like you are waiting for the nice or the necessary conditions. Because latency just itself by definition is a stage of dormancy where there are no symptoms being produced. So if we say at that very moment there is reactivation or it is activated again, it can produce the symptoms. No, at that point when it becomes active again, then the latency has finished because latency is just a period of dormance. It becomes active again. Or when it becomes active again, that won't be referred to again as latency because latency is a state of dormancy. When it starts to infect, where we start seeing symptoms again, it's no longer latent. It's become active again. Sure. So we can do the last question here. The following statements relate to vaccines. Are they true or false? The development of vaccine greatly accelerated the general improvement in public health. True or false? These ones I feel it's those questions we can answer even without jobbering the topic. Yes, so this one is true. How about B? Almost all bacterial diseases can now be prevented by vaccine. This one is false. There are still many more which can't. Vaccination is still limited to viral infections. True or false? This is still false. Vaccination is only restricted when a disease threatens the elimination of mankind. True or false? This is still false. To date, vaccines are more controversial than they are useful. True or false? So they are more controversial than they are used. Pardon, Doc. So we actually use at this point, aren't we using vaccines? Also, if we compare the current time in which we are in with the recent past, where do we think there are more, the vaccines are being used more? With you hear of for things like polio in this generation, you hear that Africa has no polio because we managed to eliminate it via the vaccines. So in comparison to the recent past to now, when do you think the vaccines were less useful, now or in the recent past? In the past. So I think that's why we would say the statement would be false. Of course, there are a lot of controversies out there, but we've still managed the vaccines have still proven to be useful because of there are a lot of sensitizations that have been going on in the health sector, just sensitizing people about the usefulness of them. Even just the same coronavirus, which had a lot of controversies, people ended up taking a lot of them because of the sensitization which have been ongoing. But the controversies are there. But still they are more useful. This one is saying to date vaccines are more controversial than they are useful. I still feel the vaccines are useful. That's how we've managed to eliminate a lot of problems that we had, like the polios being declared no longer present in our communities because they've been useful.